Welcome to the Art of Braids. I'm your host, Karen Tenard, and I am super excited for our guest today and the topic that we're going to be speaking about within the beauty industry, which is beauty beyond borders with our special guest, Kayla Greaves, on inclusivity, storytelling, and defining your own style. And I remember growing up, my style has been like really weird, where it's like braids has always been a part of my look, my aesthetic. If just, even if it's not on my hair, it's in my clothes or something. Like people be like, okay, that's you. So I'm not gonna go any further with going like that because we need to get into this topic because it's incredible. But before we do that, I want to introduce y'all to our special guest, Kayla. Please introduce yourself and basically where you are, because I know you travel in, so where you are right now, and a little bit about your history and what got you into journalism.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, my name is Kayla Greaves. I am originally I grew up in Toronto and I moved to New York when I was 25. So I've been here for a while now. I got I mean, I always knew that I wanted to work in media and work in journalism. I didn't specifically know what I wanted to do. At first, I wanted to be a music journalist, and then that side of the industry kind of changed, so I didn't think it was right for me anymore. And then I got into beauty, and it was kind of kismet that I did, because I grew up in a town where I was basically like one of one. There wasn't a lot of other Black people around, and I never really like had high self-confidence or high self-esteem until way later on in my life. And so going into beauty was really intentional for me because I wanted to create space and stories for people that look like me, and to just to know, like, you're not alone. Your experiences are not, just you. You're not crazy. Yes, you are being gaslit by people. Yes, these are microaggressions, and your experiences are real and valid. So yeah.
Wow. I totally understand that. On like basically how it kind of like aligns and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
what you were scared of or what wasn't for you back then is now something that's actually assisted in what you stand for today. So thank you.
absolutely.
And I'm like, I love the content that you put out, especially like just kind of like immersing yourself in the beauty industry and trying things out before kind of like there's a lot of people who have promoted certain things that they haven't actually utilized
Hmm.
or seen like the effects, like they can't really speak to it. So like I love how you actually can say like, no, I've used this and you can actually see the process of it. Um,
Definitely.
so let's go into the questions. So we're going to speak on beauty as a form of storytelling because you are amazing at it. Um, you've covered the intersection of beauty and culture extensively. How do you see beauty as a tool for storytelling, and how has this shaped your approach to journalism?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is a lot of people look at the beauty industry now and they think it's just about product, and it's just about testing things and trying things, and that's fine. Of course, products are a component to it, but like, beauty is not necessarily like this frivolous thing, right? It has such an impact on your self-esteem, the way you feel about yourself, the way you present to the world, the way you take care of yourself. And I think how you treat yourself sets the tone on how other people treat you, right? I think also, there's a huge intersection between like beauty and mental health, and beauty and freedom, and beauty and liberation, all of these kinds of things. So I really try to take that approach to it. Like, I wrote this story recently for Allure on heat damage versus heat training, and I kind of put my own hair journey into it. And I was saying, like, I think for Black women, it's like we're kind of forced to make our hair look a certain way. Like, if we wear our hair straight, then we're somehow a sellout, and we hate ourselves, we hate our natural texture. But then, like, we have to admit, like, taking care of natural hair can be a lot of work, right? um Braids are fantastic, but braids can also have like repercussions in terms of like, giving you like alopecia, or, damaging your scalp or damaging your hair. So like, there's a lot of things to think of when it comes to that. So the approach I've taken to hair now is I'm doing what's best for me, and I am no longer attached to my hair. So right now I have my hair in a bob, and I've been doing heat styling. I will blow my hair out once a week because I wash my hair on a weekly basis. And of course it's going to be an element of heat damage. Like, am I purposely trying to set my hair on fire and break it off? Like, no, but realistically, like, you use heat all the time, there will be an element of heat damage to your hair. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with being like, okay, my ends are breaking. I need to cut my hair off, and I will cut my hair off, right? And I don't have that same attachment to it. So I think there's a lot of intersections we can take when it comes to this and when it comes to storytelling. And I don't think it needs to necessarily be this like product based thing, but even if it is, like, there's always like a deeper story to be told with these things.
Oh, I love that. And I know I seen you well, not recently, but you did the big chop. And when you said liberation, I already know how free that was. Because
Yeah.
when people do the big chop is like something drastic. It's like, you know what, I'm taking my life back. There's
Yeah.
that ends, whether it's a relationship or job or just moving, like you just want to kind of start over. Like just to be on that part, like how did people react to that initial chop?
I think they reacted all kinds of ways. People thought it looked great. People were shocked that I did it. People thought I shouldn't have done it. But it wasn't about them, right? And like, I think that's what I had to learn through that is I think so many people project a lot of their stuff onto people, and people project a lot of things onto me individually. And you kind of just have to like clock it and be like, this has nothing to do with me. This is a projection of what you think I should look like, or what you think women should do, or how you think women should wear their hair. And I don't agree with that. Like, I'm doing this because I need to do this for myself, right? Like, I think a lot of Black women, we have very complicated relationships with our hair. And I think when you let go of that attachment, when you shave it off and you're like, oh, it's going to grow back, it's fine, then it's like you kind of unlock this new part of yourself where it's like, I don't have to be so obsessed with making my hair look a certain way because I can always start over, right? Even if my hair breaks off or something horrible happens, or I do a chemical treatment and it all goes wrong, I can start over. Like, it's not the end of the world. So
Oof, I love that because that same ideology is true for like work, business, or anything like that. Because if you think
just
that,
life in general, you can always start over. You can always start over.
yeah, because and then it's like not you're in the abundance mentality instead of the lack, where it's like, oh my God, my hair. I remember cutting off my hair because I went to a stylist and it kind of like went weird. So I went to the barbershop.
Yeah.
I was like, just shave it all off. And it was like, really? I'm like, it I don't know what is going on in my head. So,
Right.
but when I came out, I felt so like present, like people could see my face. I wasn't hiding behind my hair. I just
Yeah.
had this confidence that I had to have. Like it was just like, now it's just me. And
Hmm.
my family, my mom was looking at me like, whoa, like, where's your earrings? Like, but I was like, I know I'm a female. Like I know I'm like good. But it was just kind of like if I was so like insecure of like who I was, that definitely would have affected me. But because I knew who I was
Hmm.
and that I was like, my hair will grow back. I don't care. Like it just
Right.
it just shut the world out. And it was just kind of like, I'm going through this process right now. My hair will grow. Um,
Yeah. And
totally.
I think too, as Black women, we kind of look at our hair as burdensome, and everybody around us makes our hair seem like it's burdensome, like it's a problem. Oh, it's so thick, it's so dense, it's so this, it's so that. And so we are kind of programmed to look at our hair as like this chore. When really it's like hairstyling should be something that's creative and fun and playful and explorative and all of these things that we don't really get to experience when it comes to our hair because we just look at it as like, oh, it's just like something else to do. And so it's like, I have just personally just been like, I'm letting go of this. Like, if I want to cut my hair, I'll cut it. If I want to dye it, I'm going to dye it. Like, I'm going to do all the things. And if it breaks off, then it breaks off. As long as it grows back, then it grows back. So I'm more focused on, of course, like I take care of my hair and I don't want any misconceptions around that. Like I take care of my hair, I do my deep conditioners, I do all those kinds of things. But I'm more focused on scalp health than I am about hair health per se.
Ooh, love it. And I'm big on like painless braiding, and quality products, right? Like minimum gel, all of that stuff, like that triggers like dryness and all that stuff. It's all about
Yeah.
the moisture and the hair health, which is why we're also right here. So I'm gonna move on to the second question, which is the inclusivity and the beauty industry. You've been an advocate for more inclusivity in the beauty space. What progress do you think the industry has made, and what are some areas where you still believe that they still have room for improvement?
I think, we're at a place now where most people can find their shades. Maybe not with every brand, but they can find their shades, or they can find something that works for their texture, generally speaking. Like there is a line that is going to have their stuff. Um, I think the idea that every single brand and every single company needs to have every single thing for every single person is just not realistic. And I think now it's kind of on the consumer to decide, who am I going to support? Like the industry is so, it's like oversaturated at this point. There's so many products on the market to the point where consumers are generally confused, whether it becomes to hair, skin, nails, makeup. Like they don't even know where to go because there's so much out there, right? So I think right now the onus is really on the consumer to say, like, these are the people that I'm going to be supporting, right? Like let's say, for example, like a certain brand doesn't have your shade of foundation or blush or lipstick or whatever the case is. There are 1,000,001 Black owned brands that actually need the support right now, that actually need the visibility, that actually need all these things in the platforms and people reposting them, that we could be spending our time on, rather than complaining that such and such place doesn't have our shade range, right? Because it's not that the shade doesn't exist. It's not that, the formula doesn't exist for like the conditioner or whatever it is that you're looking for. It's that we're paying attention to the wrong things, right? Like there was a time, and I was there at the time, when there was legitimately like very few products I could use on my hair, like very few.
Mhm.
There was, the drugstore foundations basically stopped at my shade, right? Like I was like the darkest shade at some brands, right? It's not the case anymore. So I think what's missing is, we're not seeing a ton of funding, and we have seen like a drop in VC funding, and we have seen like people try to play around and stop grants from happening that are specifically for Black owned businesses and that kind of stuff. We've seen all that stuff happening, but and that's largely out of our control. But what we can control as consumers is who we support and who we give attention to. And even if you can't buy something, posting something online helps, because maybe you can't buy it but somebody else can, right? Like um attention means something. Like paying attention, giving visibility to the brands that deserve to have it, means something. So I think that's what's missing.
Right. This is so true. And congratulations on your product, It Girl.
Thank
Um,
you.
in the beauty industry. What led you to I mean, being in the industry, it does inspire like, yo, like this would be good if I had something. Like what was your like aha moment that you wanted to create something to give back or allow people to support you through in the beauty industry?
Yeah, so actually, the founder of Brown Sugar Babe, Makeda, had scheduled a call with me, and she just basically said, like, "Hey, I kind of want to be more in the New York market. I want to get some more media. Like, how do I kind of go about doing that?" And I told her to throw an event in New York, and she had a lot of stuff going on in her life at the time, and so maybe about like 6 months later, we actually did the event. And as we were planning, like, I found the venue for them, and then as we were planning and doing a site check, they had suggested, like, hey, do you want to do like a custom oil? And we announced it at the event. And I said, sure. And I pretty much already kind of knew what I wanted it to smell like, because I work a lot with fragrances. I layer a lot of fragrances. Like I can kind of see people's reactions when I wear one thing or another, and what I kind of like, what my mood is. And so I kind of already knew what I wanted it to smell like. And then I love her line because it's like fragrance and skincare in one. Like you, honestly, you use that oil, and I'm not just saying this because I have a product with them, but you use that oil regularly. It's a mix of 5 organic oils, and your skin really does start to glow. It's incredible. And so it just felt like the perfect match. And like I was so nervous when I put it out because, as you know, fragrance is personal and everything smells different on everybody. And, but people have really been loving it and it's been getting rave reviews. And people are like, I got to run for my husband. And, like all this kind of stuff when they put it on. I'm like, okay, girl, like, but I love that people are loving it. And I love that it's, two things in one. And I love that, like, for the first product I kind of put out into the world, it was with a Black owned brand and a fellow Caribbean girl. And, so it's been good, but it just kind of happened. Like, it was just kind of like kismet and things just kind of aligned. Like, it was never a plan. I never thought I was going to do a product. Like, if you had asked me earlier this year, are you going to put out a product? I would have been like, I don't think so. I'm not planning on it, but it happened and it was a really beautiful partnership. And McCain and I have really built a beautiful friendship and it's gone places and taken me places and taken her places we didn't expect. So it's been great.
Yeah, congratulations on that. And I definitely believe when it's like authentic and it's just kind of like when you spirit led and it's just like, oh, just
Totally.
instead of forcing it, it's like, oh, can I do this? Like, actually, it would make sense, like I want, so it's just, I love that. I love that. Like just let things flow and happen naturally, especially in the beauty industry when we're talking about nature
Exactly.
and natural. So, and then when we talk about defining your personal style, I wanted to ask about in your articles, yeah, you've often discussed the importance of defining personal beauty standards rather than following the trends, right? How do you think stylists and beauty professionals can empower their clients to embrace their individuality?
Yeah. I think just simply asking somebody like, how are you feeling today? Or like what energy do you want to put out into the world? Or like how do you want to feel when you walk out of the salon? Right. And kind of just using that energy. Like I think a lot of being a hairstylist and working in beauty, a lot of it is like trusting your intuition. And also just feeling the vibe of the other person. Like if this person is feeling kind of like, shy and timid and they're kind of hiding behind their hair, then maybe do something where their hair is back and it's showing their face off a little bit more. But I think really just listening to your clients, being in tune with your clients, helps a lot. And a lot of the times, like a hairstylist is almost like a therapist in a way, right? Like you sit down in that salon chair and you're like, girl, I had a day and my husband's pissing me off and somebody else pissed me off at work and I'm going through this and my mother's doing this and my brother's asking for money. And it's like, this is like a person you have a real relationship with. So I think like, you kind of judge however you want to judge like how close you are to this person. But I think like a hairstylist, like use your intuition and kind of like, I guess, just work with your client to make sure that they're leaving the salon chair feeling their very best. I remember growing up in a salon and them not listening to what I had to say and them not caring that like I didn't want my ends bumped. I wanted them straight like Aaliyah and they didn't want to do that. I think like really listening and being in tune with your client really makes all the difference.
Right. No,
And
especially,
not questioning too. Like I think there's a lot of times because I'm very like I will cut my hair off. I don't care. Like I'm very much so like Bernadine and waiting to exhale. We'll just like cut it off like this. And there are times when stylists are like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do that?" And it's like, yes, I'm sure. Like stop second guessing people. Don't make people question themselves. If they say they want to, if they say this is what they want, then that's what they want.
right.
And just let them do that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It's like when they want to take that plunge, allow them to take that risk. Again, it's just hair. Like it'll
It's
grow.
just hair.
Um,
Encouragement over fear. I think encourage them over fear, or like even if you're like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna da, 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 like give them styling options. Like, hey, you could do this with it. You could do this with it. You could style it this way. You could style it that way. Like, give them inspiration and ideas instead of just saying like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna look good on you, kind of thing.
yeah, be solution based. Um,
Exactly.
Especially if someone wants to try a new color. If they never did it, maybe do it with like maybe an extension and like be like, okay, let's try this out first. And if you really want to do it, then we'll go ahead and dye it. But just give them the option, which makes sense. Um,
Right.
because they could be like, I just want to try, I just want to see it. So it makes sense. And then when it comes to hair, I feel like hair is how we communicate. Like hair is like the antennas of like what's happening in our body and how we can communicate. And as a stylist touching the person's head, you can communicate a lot, especially transferable of energy, like,
Yeah.
so it's like, don't be fearful in how you feel because then it'll transfer into their head. Or if you don't like
Yes.
something, like I try to go with all love. Like I'm like, oh my God. And they were like, oh my God, I feel the love. Like, and it grows through that. So thank you for that. So our final question for this, like educational purposes, is the impact of media on the beauty perception. As someone
Hmm.
who worked in media, how do you think media portrayal of beauty impacts the way people, especially women of color, perceive themselves? And what roles can hairstylists and beauty experts play in shifting that narrative?
Yeah. Well, I think it can have a huge impact, but we also have to remember media has changed a lot, right? Like I think there was a time in like the 90s and early 2000s where it was a very small group of people making choices and decisions on trends and what's nice and what's not nice and what looks good and what doesn't look good for a very large group of people. Now it's like the floodgates have opened and there's a lot more voices in there with social media, right? And there's a lot of people who are saying things that maybe aren't fully qualified to say things, but then there's also people that are saying things and making points that this very small group of people that was not very diverse are able to say. And so things have really shifted. Um, I think what hairstylists can do, or anybody working in the beauty industry, is just really show how creative we can be with our natural hair. Like I always think of like Vernon Francois and like Ursula Stephen and Lacey Redway. Like these are people that will take natural hair or even textures like 4C, which everybody's like, the dreaded 4C that you can't do anything with. 4C hair is extremely versatile, right? Like, please don't ever get that twisted. It can, it's very coily hair, it's very fine hair, it's very delicate hair, but you can blow up 4C hair and that person has, beautiful, thick, dense, hair, beautiful hair, you can curl it back up. You can do so many things with that hair. And like when I think of, when Lupita, probably about around 10, probably more than 10 years ago, when Lupita like originally, came out and she was like really on the scene and she won the Oscar, the looks that Vernon was creating for her with her natural hair or like using like afro extensions to create these looks, I'm like, wow, like that just killed every stereotype there was about 4C hair being this like limited hairstyle that you can only do so much with,
Yeah.
right? Like you can do anything you want with hair. It's really about creativity. It's really about love. It's really about passion. It's really about understanding. It's about education. So being able to just show the world all the versatility that hair has, that our hair has, that you can have fun with it, that you can explore your hair type, that it doesn't have to be this chore, that it can be this like, beautiful, fantasy, and it can be, inspiring to learn how to do like all of these things that we don't usually attribute to natural hair or to, very dense or coily hair. Use those things, use your skills, use your education to create that new narrative and make people, dream and fantasize about all the things that their hair can do. I think that makes a huge difference.
Right. Yeah. Representative representation does matter because people who have that hair, they'll see it and be like, oh, let me recreate that. Let me try that. Because then they're able to, instead of like that self-hate where it's like, let me relax my hair because I can't do anything with it. It's just more of like that empowerment, indirect.
Exactly.
So that
Exactly.
it's very important, especially as stylists, right? Like when you're doing somebody hair, it's like you let's add a relaxer rather than saying, "Oh my God, you have amazing hair. Let's see how much creativity or
Right.
what we can get this to do." It becomes a journey, like something exciting, and people, the clients will actually like this. So I thank you for saying that and adding to that. So for our last questions, this is like the little fun round, getting to know you. Will be so what is something that people are surprised to learn about you?
I think people are really surprised to learn that I'm not just into beauty. Like I'm into a lot of different things. Like I think I'm into like I love to cook. I also like love plants and gardening. I also like really love horses. I listen to like literally every type of music that there is, pretty much. The only things I don't really listen to is like non-English music, and that is only because I'm a person who's big on lyrics and songwriting, and if I can't understand the language, it's hard for me to connect with the song. But yeah, I'm into a lot of different things. People think I'm very so focused on beauty, but I'm like, no, I love my plants. I love my kitchen. I literally went grocery shopping. I just finished a marinade for a lamb just before we got on the call. Like, I love all these things. So people are very surprised to know that about me. But yeah, I'm into all that.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with being in journalism, like it's more of like that the curiosity where it's like I want to learn how to do everything. Um,
Yeah, and just creativity.
yeah, basically. So understood that. Now, when it comes to education and what people can learn about, what is a book or a resource that you think would be beneficial to one of our listeners?
Oh my God, that's a hard question because I love books. I have so many books. What specifically do they want to?
I would say in starting a career in beauty or media and beauty.
There is a book. Hold on, let me just I need to get the author's name. I would say, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It's called Not Nice. Stop People Pleasing, Staying Silent, and Feeling Guilty. It's by Dr. Aziz Gazipura. I hope I'm saying his name right. But it's just a book that's like, it really helps you just, if you're not somebody who is super duper straightforward or you feel guilty for speaking up for yourself and all those kinds of things, which is something that like a lot of us struggle with, it really helps it put into, I guess, perspective that like you can be kind without being nice, right? Like in the sense of like you don't need to let people take advantage of you in order to get the things you want. Like you can be straightforward to still be kind, but also just make sure that you're not people don't take you for granted. So I think that helps a lot because that can happen oftentimes in our industry is like kind of people will just walk all over you or they feel like they have to step on you to like get where do they need to go. So just making sure that you have boundaries and laying down those roles while still, being helpful to others while still without people pleasing, right? While still, not abandoning yourself, while still getting the things you want, while not, hurting other people. So I think that's a good book to read.
Right, this is true. And like that people pleasing thing is also manipulative because you'll
Yeah.
say yes to this and when you know you don't want to do it and it's just like, okay, I'll do this because I'll get this. And it comes off very fake and inauthentic. So
Hmm.
being able to say like I would love to, but I can't. I know my
Yeah.
capacity. I'm gonna overstress myself. So reading that book or getting into books and guides around there makes sense. Because
Yeah. Also, I think too, another type of book I really love to read that's not necessarily like straight self-help is like artist autobiographies. Like I really love reading autobiographies from people that I admire. So there's like a lot of musicians that like I'm very inspired by their music. And I'll read their autobiographies and I'm like, wow, like, and just learning where they were living or what they were doing or what was going on in their life when they wrote certain songs. Um, or when they put certain things together or when they made certain albums or where they were in their life, it makes me connect to their music more, and it also makes me think like it just makes me think a lot more deeply about their creative process, and I think that is a huge motivation for me. And there's a lot of things I can relate to just as a fellow creative person. I think that helps a lot. So reading the autobiographies of people that you admire, whether or not they're in your industry.
right. Or dead or alive, right? Like
Yeah.
because kind of like, oh man, they went through that. It's very inspirational and it's like
Yeah.
this wasn't around and they did like so all right. So the last question is how can people support and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can check out my website. I'll be updating it soon. KaylaGreaves.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Kayla. I'm on Threads at the same handle. And yeah, just follow along to see what I'm up to.
Yeah. Thank you so much for Taking this journey and just kind of like sharing your expertise and your background with us. Again, it is your girl, Karen Tenord, and I am here with Kayla A. Greaves. And this is the Art of Braids. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you so much.